Welcome to another episode of A Question of Meaning with Arthur and Katie.
If you were tuned in last time, we had an interesting kind of explosion of reality on the show. We spent a lot of time talking about reality, but we got in touch with some interesting dynamics in our relationship. I called Katie boring, which kind of set off a interesting exchange, which is what I'd really be interested in on this show. I am getting kind of bored with talking about stuff I already know, putting these ideas out there, and they're very conceptual. We think we can back up everything we say in real life, but how about using our relationship as a squeaking guinea pig and see if we can, interface what happens when you've lived together for 30 years. And certainly boredom comes up for me, even though I've thought about, well, anyway, that's what happened. So you got any spin on it? I'll just turn it over to you first, because I've got a couple of thoughts.
No, we just sort of decided to turn the camera on for various reasons this morning. So I really haven't thought about it at all, no.
Well, boredom, like anger, is a prime symptom of what we call insanity, universal human insanity. What is that? UHI.
So you're looking for
acronym. And because what does boredom mean? It means, ask any scientist, any physicist, and they will confirm that every moment of the present is different from the last moment. Can you hear our cat scratching in her box in the background? It has a little homey touch. Will you finish up, please?
She was sitting in the chair when we were getting set up. We thought she wanted to be part of the program,
Yeah,
so here she
when
is.
she was removed from the chairs, and I'll serve my presence other ways. Hopefully, it's nothing serious.
Okay, so I think you were talking about the present moment, something about
the present. Every moment of now is different, not only from the past moment, but it's different from any moment that ever was. It's a nifty thing about the old universe is it's entirely dynamic. It's always new. It's always different. And when we were kids, young kids, the younger, as far back as you can remember, and even before that, who knows the glories of toddlerhood, we were a lot more in touch with that objective fact. It's always new and fresh and different. And we were digging it and in a state of wonder about it and exploring it and tasting it and feeling it. And it's kind of like that in a relationship. And let's not even limit it to a relationship. The older we get, the way our minds are programmed, they start operating as in your teens, you start acting cool. What does it mean to act cool? So I've seen this before. I'm not impressed. You can't show me anything different. It's kind of like today's non-reactive youth. How's it going? Pretty good.
Because they've seen it on TV. They think they've experienced it.
Yeah, well, as seen on TV, the world's experience. In any case, let's don't attack today's youths. Please, they have a hard enough road ahead of them. Hard road. Anyway, so boredom is akin to that. Boredom is the same thing as acting cool. Boredom is you've seen it before and you do not need to give it any particular amount of attention. You kind of start living life on autopilot. And in a relationship, we will turn to relationship.
Well, you said you wanted to keep it in the realm of
this
actuality,
is the overview.
So.
The overview, yeah. In the realm of actuality, damn sure when you've lived with somebody for 30 years, baby, you know a lot about the other person. Unless you are like some modern couples who kind of agree to get together on maybe Saturday for a trip to the Home Depot or something, or do a concert once a week. And the rest of the time, he's got his job, she's got her job. The time you see each other between turning on Today or Good Morning America and going to work and getting home and having the TV draining in the background or the kids or all the activities, just the logistics of getting fed and clothed and chores done and, blissful vegging in front of a TV set and bedtime. There's not a lot of quality time spent together.
Well, maybe that's a good thing because, I remember hearing somebody say that it was
Matt
like,
Groening, I
oh, I
think.
know. No,
No?
this was somebody else. It was this couple who, from outside appearance, seemed to really get along really well that I knew where we lived before and really enjoyed each other's company. Well, he was is a pilot for a major airline, and they don't see each. I mean, he's gone like for a month at a time. And so then he'll come home and they'll be together for a week or 10 days, and then he's gone for another month. And somebody said, well, maybe it's because the amount of, you're still like newlyweds practically. You've been together 7 years, but if you put together the amount of time you've actually spent together, it's like what most people are in the first year of their relationship. So perhaps that's a secret. It's like you just stay separate a whole lot. And then when you do get together, it seems really interesting.
Two pertinent quotes leap to mind. One is, absence makes the heart grow fonder, and
Yes.
conversely, familiarity breeds contempt. So Katie and I have had the kind of relationship where we've logged in.
Yeah, we're together like 24/7
We
because
should
we
be
work
celebrating
together.
our diamond jubilee
Yeah,
or
that's
something.
right. Compared to the amount of time most people spend together, we're like our clock runs about 3 times as fast, probably 4 times
Is there
as
such a
fast.
thing as a millennium anniversary? I wonder.
Sometimes.
So I had an insight yesterday just out of the blue, and I want to get conceptual. I want to keep it, and I want to just talk concept. I want to talk about us. So, because we were having a debate about, love, and I stated that love, our definition is the experience of unconditional acceptance of what is. And the catch-22 is to unconditionally accept something, you've got to unconditionally know something. And we don't know anything unconditionally, we suggest, other than something's happening at my location. And I have a lot of names for it, but I don't really know what it is. So I said also that even though love, like my love for Katie that I avowed, which was largely attributed to lust, charitably,
And other things.
I think that's your insecurity speaking, quite frankly. That's what you made of mine. I mean, I'm 12 years older, and here's this, I was still bleeding from complete disaster number 2, and I meet this beautiful young woman, intelligent and full of enthusiasm, which I admit, even at that age, kind of irritated me a bit. That was a part of you I didn't love because it was hard to accept someone who could be that enthusiastic about life.
See, so now that part
so
of
it's
me is
conditional.
still here,
Yeah.
and that's a part of me you still don't like.
I still doubt. That's right. How could anybody have a good outlook on a planet of lunatics, of raving lunatics?
Yes.
But that's the limitation. That's a condition. What we talk about is you usually go around in a state of flight, fight. We do. That's why we don't love. That's why love is so rare. We make a big deal out of it when it happens. Maria, I just met a girl named Maria. You should hear a couple of the songs of tribute I've written about Katie. Katie, listen to me now. Katie, I really don't know how. Katie, I've got this far without loving you. Lusting you, I should have said. I'll work on the rewrite.
Also, I don't know, you seem to keep maybe insecure about how people out there in TV land are assessing your attitude towards me because you seem to be making a...
Am I diverting wildly from the subject?
No, you just seem to be coming back to this, like, pointing out that, how wrong I was, that you didn't ever really love me, like it's something you have to keep...
protesting. I'm protesting too much. Is that what you're saying?
Perhaps, yeah.
Have you ever loved? Really?
Yes,
right now, have
Arthur,
you? You have loved?
Yes.
Okay, you've had the experience
Yes.
of love.
We went through this last week.
I know we
yes.
did. You're sure?
Yes.
Okay. And that love was always conditional. Well, my love for you was always conditional.
Yeah, right.
That's, I mean,
Well, yeah, okay. So
it's
I
as
think you've
conditional as anything else. We
I
don't
think
even
you've
know
established that
ourselves.
point.
We don't know who we are, what we are, where we are. We damn sure don't know what love is.
Right.
We have a nifty theory about that, but I don't want to go there. I don't want to get into that. I want to talk about what's love and what isn't. I think that would be helpful. What is loving and what isn't loving? Love is accepting something. Not loving is not accepting something. You could experience love for someone romantically. Well, let's not even go to the romantic in just a minute. You could love somebody like I've had experiences of love for complete strangers, very rarely, but it's happened. And I don't mean good-looking strangers. I mean an old lady at a Dunkin' Donuts putting donuts in my box. And I just had this profound experience of love for her. And it certainly didn't mean I wanted to go to bed with her or marry or anything else. It was just there. I've done it for driving down the freeway and seeing construction workers on an overpass. And there was just this feeling for all of them. It's a feeling of, and you can have that in a romantic relationship, especially at first when it's all new and it's all fresh. And you're basically, because it's conditional, you have a list in your head of positives and negatives, and you meet someone finally who satisfies or meets an extraordinary number of your positive traits that you personally hold positive in another person. And all of a sudden you find yourself in the experience of love for them. So you make the fatal mistake of trying to hold on to it. You start going steady. You live together. You get married. You have the real estate closing, whatever. Eventually, though, you're going to start seeing deeper than that surface level. And not only do you have a list of positives in your head, you have a huge list of negatives. And those negatives start appearing. And if they're not communicated, and if they're not shared, and if they're not resolved, they will kill the love, because they will grow unacknowledged and unexpressed. And we're so hungry for love when it finally happens. We're like starving children giving the keys to the bakery shop. The tendency is just to gorge on bonbons until you basically get sick, or to stuff your pockets and hold on to it, but even that stuff's gets stale and can't be eaten anymore. So we're afraid of love going away. That, in fact, that's the first reflexive knee-jerk response to falling in love, is the fear that it's going to go away. Oh my God, I love you, I love you. Please, don't go away. Please, love. Finally, again, I experience love. Don't let it disappear. It's non-acceptance. It's a love killer. So what you do in a relationship, you just start hiding hurtful thoughts about the other person. You don't communicate them. You don't communicate those negative things that really bug you, like the guy leaving the seat up, or not washing your share of the dishes, or somebody else doing too many of the chores. I get a great piece of advice for you. In a relationship, always make sure the chores are equal. Never let the other person. I knew that was going to happen. That's okay.
Yeah.
I forgot to unplug the phone. We're expecting a call, but this is the call. I knew it would happen, so we're just going to ignore it unless the message machine starts going off. And then I'm going to sing Dixie to conceal the... And I want you to join in to cover your mic, too.
We could just take it down and have a moment of silence. That would also be possible. So... yeah, it's on, but I don't think
anybody could hear it, especially if we keep suburban, interurban, urban, suburban.
I was thinking
suburban,
when you were
interurban. That's what you do when you're doing a crowd scene in a movie. Someone
you
told me
just
that.
Murmur?
Suburban, interurban, urban, suburban, interurban. Blah, 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 blah. What I wish I was in the land of cotton, old times there, not forgotten, like away.
Okay, so I was
Dixieland,
going to...
in Dixieland, where I was born, early on the frosty morning, like away. Want to keep going?
If you want, the message is still going.
It's still going, yeah, but it's all right.
So,
talk.
Well, I was trying to,
I know,
but
we'll
you
talk,
kept singing.
because it's still going on.
Yeah, so you were talking about, about love killing things, and that the first thing is not accepting the fact that there's negative things about the person you love. But I was thinking that maybe in some ways, that's true. And there's little things we had a show where we talked about the different things that destroy love. But what I was thinking that's not, I don't think we talked about that day, is that we blame our lives. One of the reasons it's convenient to have somebody in your life is that if you're not satisfied with the way your life looks, you have a handy scapegoat for why it looks the way it does, because you're living with somebody.
You all my pretty years.
That's right. You're living with somebody who does, whatever, fill in the blank, that causes you to not have the life that you could have if you were free of their dominating, or whatever influence. And I can see that that's a real destructive thing.
Yeah, that's
for
pretty
me
destructive.
Is, that when I hear Arthur talk, I hear him blaming me for a lot of things that seem completely odd or unfair or unsubstantiated or not my experience, but they are obviously really real for him. And then when I think of that there's a whole list that I have on my side of things that I blame him for and why everything's his fault.
Thank you, Miss Helper. Are you choking on your words over there? I have a slug.
So, being boring, that's one way Arthur blames me for his life being the way it is because I'm boring. So I block adventure in his life.
Let me give you, I promise you, let me give you a retort to that. Mm-hmm. I find myself boring. Not only boring, but cowardly because I'm too damn... If it's so bad, why the hell am I still here? Because I'm a coward.
That's a good question.
Because I get a lot out of this relationship. We're like two rats clinging to a piece of driftwood. And that's a bit harsh. But, I mean... That's,
viewer, judge for yourself.
Yeah, you judge for yourself. I mean, look at us doing this show. I mean, we are... intellectual, philosophical soulmates on so many levels. We go out and film. We have one camera. We trade the camera back and forth. She's every bit the videographer I am, and vice versa.
And we actually take the same shots.
That's the real drawback.
Move the camera in between us taking turns filming, because otherwise we'll duplicate each other's shots a lot.
I mean, 30 years, and it's been that way a lot from the start. We would have the same thoughts. We co-author books together. We write together. We haven't been doing that lately. I think that was really pushing the envelope in terms of not the ideas, but in terms of actually getting it said right. So there's so many levels at work. But I've always been the kind of guy, I'm like Don Corleone. I'm a man who insists on hearing the bad news right away. And why perhaps this show is so critical of what's going on in the world, in the human condition at this critical juncture in our evolutionary history. Because we think we're going to off ourselves so we don't wake the hell up. So that's what this show is about, wake the hell up. A question of waking the hell up. What are we doing? What's it mean? So there's a lot that works, but I'm interested in the things that kill the love, because I'm like Oliver Twist. The board were meeting in solemn conclave when Mr. Bumble rushed in great excitement and, addressing the man in the tall hat, said, "Begging your pardon, sir, but Oliver Twist has asked for more." Well, that's me. Put that on my headstone. Arthur Hancock always asked for more. Until I'm like Reverend Ike. I don't want my pie in the sky by and by. I want my pie right now, goddammit, with vanilla ice cream on it. He didn't say goddammit. Can I say goddammit before the 11 o'clock hour when we all turn into adults?
I'm totally confused about what's allowable or not on network TV today.
I'm interested in having all that other stuff, philosophical soulmates, intellectual soulmates, even though scholastically, there's no competition. This woman is so much smarter than me. Possibly because I hated school with a passion. I suppose if I had applied myself, but that's like saying if I had bigger body parts, I could be in certain kind of movies. But
there's different kinds of intelligence.
Yeah, thanks. So,
part of me is like, okay, I mean, at a certain level of us being real about our lives, viewers will find it interesting. But I think it's like at a certain point also, how much of our airing of our dirty laundry is really interesting to people. I mean, I don't know how, you know, I guess people really like reality shows, and they like things
Big
like
time.
what are those
Bachelorette.
daytime talk shows where
Bachelor, gangbang, is it going to be that?
Geraldo, where people end up hurling chairs at each other because they've.
Yeah, I think we can probably talk about our relationship in a reasonably sane manner
I
without.
wasn't talking about us hurling chairs. I was just saying that,
dirty laundry, and there's plenty I'm not telling on TV. If we get enough positive feedback, we'll tell all, folks.
well, maybe not all.
We might even throw the odd chair.
Well, something I thought it was interesting. We were somewhere on last weekend, and Arthur did one of his songs that is "Because I Love You," which is about experiencing what he calls universal love, which is not a directed romantic love,
Like an old lady at Krispy Kreme.
right? A love that without there being any expectations or requirements from that love. And he said something in the introduction, which he's said many times that I've heard him do it, that that when I love you, then I don't have to do anything about it. And what was really odd this time was it was a small group, but it sounded like every woman in the crowd groaned with misery.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh.
what kind, you're not going to do something to me because you love me? And I was kind of taken aback. Like
You and me both.
like that the only way they could understand love was in the context of romantic love, and that if you didn't do something about it, it was a bad thing, and
You don't send me flowers anymore.
and I think that but I think that even we have these concepts about what love should be, and yet
That's for
how
sure.
much is it still infecting our thinking about how my expectations of how you should behave. If you say you love me, well then you should accept me for who I am. And if I feel like you're not accepting me for who I am, then how can I accept your professions of love as being anything meaningful?
You don't get many professions lately, do you? Because the truth is, I think about Katie, is that you are hypersensitive about criticism.
Yes.
You take it really personally.
Right.
So anything I say, like, that volume is too loud on that, it's like, take it to heart and act like I'm just brutally criticizing you. I mean, I am critical. I'm a Virgo, which is synonymous with pain in the ass.
I think
I'm
people
a
who
perfectionist.
watch this TV show are aware of your critical nature.
You think?
I should hope
Must be
so.
getting the job done. Not really. I don't want to come across as but sorry, go ahead and finish your point.
Well, just that, my sensation is that, like I said, we reviewed the last 20 minutes of the show that aired last week before we started filming, just so we kind of knew what had happened. And my sensation is that
that's almost hitting. I'm looking at a level over there. It's really hot. You talk?
Nothing's changed since. Arthur, you're looking at the master. Don't pay any attention.
I'm looking at the master. Okay.
So my sensation is that if I changed to, that the reason you don't love me is because of that I'm not acting right, that I'm doing things wrong, that I'm interested in the wrong things and
That's
not
true.
doing the right things.
Yeah.
And if I just changed my behavior, then you could love me again.
Yeah, it's like I find our lives really, the way we live our lives, even though most people say, wow, cool, you have a video business and you're doing this stuff together and you're your own boss and you've got nifty ideas and you can create together and all that, but the Oliver Twist syndrome. And for sure, in terms of actual experience, there's never an excuse for boredom. I mean, other than being insane, which is what I am, which is what our whole work is about. And you're insane for still being here. If you were a saint, you would, the fact that you're still living with somebody like me is complete evidence of your insanity. So we're both nuts. But my excuse, there's always the excuse, my justification for my criticism is I want all that stuff that's really good and it's really great and it's really part of what I loved and do love about you. I accept about you. However, over the the eons, the glacial ages, the geological ages that have passed in the last 30 years, I've noticed a steady erosion of adventure, a real kind of sense of adventure and newness, and certainly romantic love. And I cop to all sorts of stuff that I've done to block that. But it has happened nonetheless, and it seems like, I mean, we were living in a town that was so boring. We moved here in January. My parents died within 8 days of each other. That's irrelevant, but they did 5-6 years ago, and left us a little bit of money. And I said, okay, we'll invest everything, thank God, in CDs, stock market. But we're going to buy one toy, because it's the only way I'm going to be able to live in this hick town. And so we bought a home theater. And I don't. We'd had a TV before that. We got a TV when we started getting into video. And I got hooked on movies, and we had like hundreds of super VHS movies, tapes. But now we have this monster screen and projector and surround speakers. And basically every night I'm like a slug. I'm like your average schmo. I go in there and get in my lazy boy and just go to every night's movie night. And when there's no movie, it's high definition cable night. Go Charter, fix our sound, and I'll give you some more plugs. You scratch my back. So, what else? So, that's a killer right there, man. TV is probably I would say probably that's done more damage to our relationship than anything. We've talked about this. We know this. But I'm still hooked.
Yeah, but it's like you're a junkie.
I am a junkie. I would, if there was like if drugs were legalized, I probably would live on like morphine suppositories or something.
You are definitely.
I'm definitely like the take the edge off, take the pain away.
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
There's nothing like
so
the boob tube,
since you're not drinking and you're not doing any drugs, you're substituted television.
Television, that's it.
How
so if I could go back to
interesting.
drugs and alcohol, I'd probably be much more of an upbeat person.
Well, there'd be more adventure.
There'd be more adventure in life. Would be at closing time at Grey Eagle and say, hey, who's ready for flapjacks? Let's come over to our house and watch a midnight movie.
Yeah, there you go.
I used to do that.
Wait a second. You just...
When I've given up on relating to people. So, Matt Groening, the Simpsons creator, and his wonderful Life in Hell series, he's got he's got one that says, is TV the greatest invention ever? And the little rabbit is going, well, duh. And he says, what other invention allows people who hate each other to sit in the same room for hours on end without killing each other? It is. You can sit there and stare forward and let the tube do all the work for you. I've stopped reading. I don't read very much. I notice that when I do, it activates my brain much more. I have to visualize. I can see the characters in my mind. Whereas TV, I just sit there and it does it all. And especially commercial television, it just sucks the juice right out of you. But that's a relationship killer right there, the boob tube. But are we getting any closer to it? What's wrong with us? Uncommunicated criticism of the other. You form over the eons, you form a case against the other person. You know all their subterfuges, you know all their little acts, you know their games. And at some point, I think you just give up. Carson McCullers in Heart of the Lonely Hunter writes about the Biff Brannon, who's the owner of the cafe in town, and his wife Alice. And they used to call themselves Biff and Alice, call each other Biff and Alice. But one time, one argument too far, a bridge too far, one day they just started calling themselves Mr. and Ms. Brannon, and they never went back. It was the end. And starts off with a relationship in that condition. They just basically hated each other, and they occupied the same space. And that's the tricky part about love, Because all these other good facets of our relationship, if there isn't love, what do we have? A sounding gong, clashing cymbal, a tin can kicked down the street. That's the way to treat an old friend. What do you have? Maybe you have a marriage of convenience. Maybe you have a business partnership. Maybe you're stuck together and you've lost all respect for the other person. And you've forgotten who you fell in love with or who you loved. So is that true about us?
I don't know. Sometimes I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
And, it's just one of the
I'd
problems.
say I don't know means, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of positive benefits. But I'm talking about, what about that? If you don't have love, what the hell are you together for?
Hope. Hope that someday it will change. Or denial.
My prince will come.
Denial that it's
And
really
I'll leave
changed.
Arthur.
Or,
Did you hear that? Someday my prince will come and I'll leave Arthur. That's a little male paranoia for you. Well, if you don't love me,
well, then
every
there's-
man is a threat. Oh my God.
Well, there's also the fear of, like going out there and being single. And I mean,
kidding.
at 30 years, I can't even imagine being single.
Put that much work and investment into anything and just walk away from it.
And I think that sometimes when I hear about people getting divorced after all these years, like, well, wow, that was a large investment into your life, and to call it quits and to say, that's hopeless.
Just doesn't seem prudent.
Prudent. Well, but there's also this thinking in me that a lot of what's wrong with this relationship is not Arthur's fault. It has to do with my inability to have a relationship. And that the psychological problems I have with intimacy, like I mentioned last week, with sharing myself, with being honest about who I am and what I want. And I'm going to take those exact same problems into any other relationship that I may have in the future if Arthur and I broke up, and just create new versions of this one I'm in right now. And so that I have believed this for a long time. So
yeah, but you might meet someone who's more supportive and could help you get off it and get through those.
it's just theoretically possible.
Theoretically.
Or it could be that that I'm wrong and that this is a belief I have, but it's not really true. That the whole reason we have such a lame relationship is because you're a jerk. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd say that's the standard operating.
I think most people that get divorced,
system.
they get to that point where they say the reason that this relationship is bad is because the other person's hopeless.
Yeah, I'm irreconcilably incapable of living with a jerk any longer,
Right.
terminal jerk.
And, one of the things that's been tough for me is that I feel like in the first 20 years of our relationship, I was very submissive. I was very much didn't say what I wanted, and I went along with what Arthur wanted because that provided peace in the relationship. If I said, if we disagreed about what we wanted to do or what was going to happen. See, and he looks like that. He doesn't believe me when I say this.
I completely believe it. All I'm saying is you were getting something out of it. That was a power play, too, by playing submissive and weak. You were getting something out of it. I've heard this story before. It's like I was just lying there.
Hey.
I'm suggesting that.
Okay.
So look at that.
Right.
Look at it from that angle. You weren't just lying there. You were getting something out of it in the relationship.
I think that
you're being worshipped.
Well, I don't think, I've talked before on this show about our relationship games, and I think I just said like a few minutes ago that the problems in the relationship have nothing to do with you. It's my ability to have a relationship that's my problem, and I just go out and recreate the same thing. So to say that I was blaming this on you, I don't think that's really accurate.
What I just said was no doubt a complete defensive reflex.
I mean, maybe it could have come across that way to some viewers. So, maybe you set them straight a little bit in that, we're not talking about weak and strong in reality. That, we think that relationships are 100%, two acts butting up against each other, just
That's
playing it in different ways. Okay, so,
Sorry.
but that this is accurate, is that I would so got out of the habit of saying what I wanted that it was like I didn't even know what I wanted anymore, because I realized that life was much easier if I put my desires aside and went along with what Arthur wanted. Well, at a certain point, I could, I was not willing to do that anymore because I was miserable about my life. And so I started asserting what I wanted and saying what I wanted and living how I wanted to live. And Arthur was convinced that this was preparatory to me leaving him, because he said he'd seen this in other relationship where the woman gets assertive and starts saying what she wants, and the next thing you know, she's out the door. And this has caused a huge amount of conflict between us, because I was saying to him, I'm not necessarily trying to leave. I'm just trying to be my own person and have my own life and have a relationship built on a mutual equality of being of having what we want in our lives, and not one person submitting to the other person's just to have superficial peace, which was no peace at all, because I lived my life resenting things a lot because I was not really on board with what was going on, but I and I despised myself for being so weak. And
she wasn't supported by me. I fought her basically every step of the way.
Right.
And she finally just did it. She just persevered, wore me down.
But see, that's an interesting thing. Instead of saying, wow, I like you more because you're being more true to yourself, the way you put it is that I wore you down.
You should have worn me down. There's no shut up. Basically, it was two insane people being insane with each other, playing the game of dominance in the relationship. That's what unconscious relationship looks like. Even if you're writing books on the subject of consciousness, doesn't mean you're practicing what you write, or certainly not in my case. What my feeling has been for the longest time is there was a degree of adventure and romance and love that would no doubt went by the wayside, hardly encouraged by my resistance to Katie, being her own person and not being dependent on me anymore. Or not pretending to be dependent on me anymore. Going along with my, wild schemes. Excuse me. So, no, I didn't celebrate her independence. I fought it tooth and nail because, as she said, I had seen the movie before. Mm-hmm. And usually liberated women's groups out the door. That was it. 1, 2, 3. And so what is it? What is it that I want? I want life. I want adventure. I want something happening between us, but it's gone so far. We've let it go so far, and it's just like
I asked you that last week, and I've asked you that before. It's like
it's got everything going except love, is what it feels like. And love is interesting because Katie often thinks that what I want is romantic love, the way it was when we first met. No, I don't. I mean, that really is naive. Mm-hmm. It's really, I guess, maybe it's. If love is acceptance, it requires acceptance of the way it is. And the problem is that I don't see life, and never really have, seen it as okay and acceptable the way it is. Whether it's you or me or anybody else. Mm-hmm. I think the human race is screwed in the head, to put it politely. And I grew up with hating school, not understanding the schoolyard pecking order. It just got worse the older I got. And I finally discovered, being a folk singer and long hair, and got out of high school and never looked back, and got my draft deferment and avoided the delightful Vietnam episode, and have been a rebel all my life and as wild as I possibly could be. When Katie met me in San Francisco at an unfurnished studio apartment, and I had a desk that I inherited from whoever lived there before, a chair, and a foam rubber mat on the floor. And I think there was a kitchen table with a couple of chairs. I think
Yes,
it came with the apartment.
there was.
Partially furnished.
Right.
I was sleeping on a foam rubber mat on the floor. I was playing a couple of nights at a club, and the rest of the time I was busking at Ghirardelli Square on the bayfront, playing music for tips on the street.
So
And
what made that seem more
didn't want to be
adventurous
part-
than
'cause
what you have now?
What was more adventurous about it? That's an interesting question.
Because the way you just described it sounds like there was routines. I mean, you played at the club, you played on the street, you did this, you did that.
I
But I mean,
that I've asked.
yeah. But you know, it
It
wasn't.
was all my choice. If I didn't want to go play, I wouldn't. I had to pay the rent.
Yeah.
But
So how is
Oh,
that
I
more
don't know.
adventure? I mean, I think this
Yeah.
is really important because this is for Arthur. This is
when
a
I went
really
to you, don't you mean to
huge-
go do a quick run through of our relationship? You know, the way we lived, the way we went to Mexico and lived in Florida and did wild and crazy things and went to Nashville. And, we did so much in the first couple of years. But then it started, like the brakes started being applied, and we would stay in one place longer and longer until, the last house we lived in was like 15 years in this gravel road in the middle of nowhere, and I felt increasingly like I was on the dark side of the moon, which is why we're so excited about moving to Asheville. But I find the same problems with me. I don't think I'll ever have a lot of friends. I expect too much from people. I really do. I would rather die in a ditch than sit around making small talk. I had a songwriter friend who said, there's philosophy in idle talk. Well, bully for you. I'm not interested. I don't trust people that much. It's like going to a prostitute and kidding yourself that she's actually enjoying it. Give me a break. Let's talk about what's really going on, which is what the show's supposed to be about.
Yeah.
I don't know why it was more adventurous. Maybe it was just young and stupid. I'll tell you what. Oh man, the adventures I've had in my life, and maybe that's silly. You're an old man now, so you should just kind of calm and reconcile yourself to your rocking chair.
But
And,
see, that's the thing. I think that adventure
maybe
is
it's simple
a
midlife
state
or
of
old
mind.
life crisis or something.
I think adventure is a state of mind.
No doubt.
And you've had incredible adventures. One of the reasons we were stuck in that house that you were talking about was a number of years were pursuing the ideas that are in the book "We Are All Innocent by Reason of Insanity."
Totally, the redeeming feature of this house was we wrote that book.
When you talk about doing that type of work, that it was like putting on a pith helmet and chopping through the jungle.
It was indeed.
And
It
that
is.
sounds like how most
That's what I
people
want to do now.
describe an adventure. So to me, that there is adventure in the mind of exploring new ideas and learning new things, and that's the type of adventure that's available in your easy chair.
That makes my skin crawl. I'll tell you why. Because I don't trust anybody. Trust no one. That's not what Herod told Claudius.
I think you're in
no one.
I think you're in love with your dissatisfaction.
You're damn right. Because I'll tell you what, I don't want to wind up one day with dirt on my face lying in the bottom of an open grave. And that's what I think the squares do. You play it inside the system. You work within the system. Babies, I don't trust it. And that's what bothers me about Katie, because she's so damn pragmatic. She's so practical. Bills paid, homework done, everything in its place, and a place for everything. My desk looks like regularly. Well, it takes
Actually,
months.
yours looks cleaner
It
than
does.
mine does right now.
But it took me months to clean it up. It's usually just scraps of paper and total chaos. And I don't know where everything is. I have to ask Katie where's where do we keep the Ziploc bags? Oh, yeah, that's right. We've been here for like 10 months. So it's this wildness. I think if you act like them, you become them, and they've always terrified me ever since I was about 14, 15 years old, and I started realizing these people are not where it's at. The system is not where it's at. My parents' dream of retiring on an island sounded good, but it's not where it's at. There's something else. There's something missing. And the door really cracked open when I was 16 and read some books like The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged and Brave New World in 1984 and Looking Backward and Animal Farm that extol the virtue on the island, Huxley, the virtues of individualism and being different, being free from the constraints of conformity. That hall of mirrors, all those idiots in high school with their London fog raincoats and their Madras shirts and their Weegians. I mean, on and on and on. It looked like a damn hall of mirrors. And I was different, and I loved it. It was like my life ring, my salvation. It was my identity. And I've clung to it all my life. And basically, my life has been pretty much about breaking every damned rule of society I could get away with. And I've wanted to be a wild horse. And so when I'm in a relationship now where I'm living in the suburbs, and we have a business, and we have bills to pay, we have a ridiculous overhead, and it just looks like the grave. I'm just sinking deeper and deeper. And
So adventure sounds to me like,
you know what the
for you,
adventure is?
adventure is freedom.
This show is my idea of adventure.
Yeah.
These ideas in the world, finishing this book where Katie's doing the editing on, finishing the book, getting into the world, having our ideas received. Because I feel the satisfaction of having written the stuff, like my songs, but it's one of the weirder interfaces. Here it is. It's the artist in the business world. It used to make my skin crawl. Somebody asked me, sell any songs lately? You sold it? Never mind. Real artists, I think, are hypersensitive. So are alcoholics. And you write this stuff because you have to write it. You create because you have to create. It just comes out. But then you're supposed to, people have to earn a living. I'd like to have the rest of my life. I'd like to live to be 100 and do nothing but explore how deep the rabbit hole really goes. Because that was the luxury of living out there on that road for those years, was the ability to do that. And you did a lot to make that possible, including our first book, The Game of God, gameofgod.com. So that's maybe what I mean more than anything else. A sense of partnership. But I guess maybe, I know, how's this one? I want to be forgiven for my sins. I want you to not forgive me, but like we said in the book, get to the point that you see no forgiveness is necessary. Mm-hmm. You may not even choose to live with me anymore, but you're still going to have compassion for me. It's just being a fouled up,
Right.
foobar human being.
That would be a nice point. Right.
One of your favorite songs, Don Henley.
Right. The heart of the matter.
And my soul isn't the matter, but I think it's about forgiveness. Forgiveness. Even if you don't love me anymore.
Right.
And it's not forgiveness. You forgive somebody, it means there's something to forgive. You don't go in the mental hospital and a patient has gone ape and torn their room up and say, I forgive you for doing this. They're sick in their minds. They don't know what they're doing. Well, the great fallacies is just because all of us are walking around loose and doing stupid, crazy, cruel things doesn't mean we're any less deserving of compassion. That's the message of our book.
Well, and it goes back to what I said earlier about blaming, that, when I blame you for the relationship, I'm saying is that you do all those things just to hurt me. And that it seems to be you have this sadistic desire to hurt me. And so you choose to do all these mean and cruel things for that only reason. and not because it's something inside you that's a twisted part of your psychology that forces you to do those things. And it's not what you would choose to be doing at all if you were in your right mind, because if you were in your right mind, those would be the last things you'd want to do, because they're what block love. But because I believe in free will, and I believe you're freely choosing to do the things that bother me or hurt me, then yeah, I blame you and say you're a wrong, bad person, and beyond forgiveness.
Even while currently actively editing a book that tears free will a new one, that absolutely destroys, we think, the idea of free will. Yet we
No.
still react. I get mad in traffic when somebody cuts me off.
It's so programmed into us. It's very hard to
That's right.
to see it any other way.
And that's why it's important to say bye-bye to free will. You want to be like Christ? I don't mean to get religious on you. Ooh. That's what Jesus meant. Judge not that you be not judged. Because by the same measure you judged, it's going to be measured against you. For us to make somebody wrong, if we do the same thing, I don't care how we superficially smooth over it when we do it, the subjective ego tears us up. It writes in an indelible ink on our record, and we are judged. We judge ourselves just as harshly. That's why we think self-hatred is universal. So look, I'm crazy. I could say I'm spoiled, which is certainly true. My parents were divorced when I was 5 years old, never saw my father again. My mother felt guilty and let me manipulate her. If you want to see a perfect example of what a lot of my personality is like, see South Park. Eric Cartman is the name of the character. I like to get my way. I'm self-centered. I don't really care about other people's feelings. I'm selfish, greedy, uncaring. That's my subjective ego. That's the insight that I got the other day was, do all the lies that really concern us right now, that are on the verge of killing us off as a human experiment, do all those proceed from the subjective ego? I think they do, because all those lies are based on value judgments. It's not objective fact data. Objective fact data, Arthur acts this way. Now, do I want to continue to live with that or not? But subjective ego comes in and says, objective fact data would say Arthur is a screwed up person. A lot of he's a really neat person in a lot of ways, and I am. I know that. But a lot of him is Mr. Hyde. So do I want to live with Mr. Hyde? But the point is that Arthur is like that. He's screwed up. He's insane. Now, subjective ego says Arthur's insane on purpose. He could be better if he wanted to. He knows what he's doing. He's writing books on the subject. How dare you act like you're preaching to other people that you know all this stuff, and you've written songs about it, and you've been involved with it for 30 damn years, and you still act like a flaming butthole. He's doing it deliberately. He's no damn good. He's evil. He's wrong. He's bad. He's lazy. And maybe I do need a stick on my ass. Maybe I should be arrested and put in a dungeon somewhere and flogged daily.
Yeah, sometimes
until I get
think
off it.
that I'm the wrong person for you. That what you need is a woman that really rides your
you don't
ass.
mean it that way. Sorry, I took it a different way. I started to think it sounds kind of pretty. Sounds pretty good. I've tried other stuff. Tried a lot of other areas, but a dominatrix might be.
Yeah, well,
just the ticket. But no, she would just.
Thing is, you wouldn't.
That's not what you're saying.
No.
Yeah, somebody who would kick my butt until my nose bled.
Behind every successful man is a good woman. Well,
it's a hectoring woman.
That's what you need, is a good woman.
So, are you with us so far, folks? Is this hopefully of some value? Sharing our, I wouldn't call it dirty laundry. I would call it relationship dynamics.
Well, when we were at that gathering, I talked about, somebody else did a song by John Prine about the relationship, which was obviously close to the end of a relationship, and the basic gist of the song was that the wife was yelling at him about something, and he's like, "You think I care, but I'm across town drinking a beer. My body may be here, but I'm not even here." And so it's like, well, I think people could probably relate to what we're talking about. That, and that's one of the things that the psychological errors we make is we think that we're alone in our problems, and we look out and we see other people and we see their relationships, and on the surface they look like things are going okay. They don't, and when they're in public, they don't have huge arguments. So it's easy to think that, well, they're not suffering what I'm suffering. And I think that's maybe part of the desire here, is that by sharing what we're going through, that, and talking about the sort of things that most people don't talk about, that, maybe this can be of value to other people, just maybe in the one area that you're not alone, that if you're struggling with your relationship, well, so are we. And I think that's part of life most of the people who really experience love on an ongoing basis are few and far between. And that's what we're talking about here. I think that's Arthur's goal that he's talking about, is getting to this place where love is a fresh experience every day. But what is that? What do you have to do to be in that place?
Question your priorities. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe turn that damn home theater off.
Well, one of the things I've thought about,
communicating and being with each other in a fun way.
I've started exercising. I thought, okay, well, you've made this commitment to start putting certain blocks of time a week into making your body more healthy. Well, what about really committing to the equivalent blocks of time making your relationship healthy?
I joined the Y weather. I went swimming.
But
just recently, that shows some commitment, some willingness.
No. But what I'm talking about is that that I think that I think I've said this before, that our cultural model of relationships is you meet Mr. or Ms. Right, and you're swept off your feet and you ride off into the sunset, and you never have any problems, because that's when the movie ends. The couple riding off into the glowing sunset. And they're happy ever after. And so we think if we have problems, that means we haven't found Mr. or Ms. Right. So, time to leave this one and go off to another one. And
or worse, just grin and bear it.
I certainly didn't have any relationship, my parents didn't teach me about making a relationship work, about putting in the time to find out, deal with problems in a relationship. So I don't have a lot of models. So, that's what we've talked about. It's like, well, what if we really spent time, 3 days a week, an hour, really looking at issues in our relationship? What would happen?
Putting on boxing gloves and getting in a ring down at the health club. What if they have a boxing ring down at that could be good, one of those big foam rubber things you slam each other with. It don't hurt. Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe that's sort of what we're doing here.
It's interesting. This is what I really wanted out of this show. I don't want to just talk cosmic concepts. Mm-hmm. Gotta go.
So anyway, thanks for watching. See you next week.